Welcome to the Penultimate Show. This is the second to last storytelling show you will ever need. My name is Alex Stein. I am very, very excited about this show that I've put together for tonight. We have fantastic storytellers, personal essayists, and writers, and all sorts of wonderful people like that. To start off, our first performer is a former member of the Bobs, an award-winning composer and lyricist, a regular performer all over the world in the before times, and coming soon to the after times as soon as they get here. A regular on Harry Shearer and Judith Owen's Christmas Without Tears shows, and the author of Impact, an amazing show that is coming your way soon. You can hear her on Brian Woodbury's new single, My Bad, which she also co-wrote, and watch for her on the video showing accordion chops that make Weird Al look normal. You can sign up for her mailing list on her website at amyengelhart.com, and you'll get a free MP3 out of the deal. And she tonight is singing by special request from me a brand new song of hers that really is the only possible reaction to a shitty year like the one that we've had, the one that we're finishing. Please welcome, singing a lullaby for 2020, Amy Engelhart. She's here somewhere. There we go.
I'm downstairs, Alex. I will be different. You will be different. This will be different tomorrow. Who am I kidding? I must be kidding. I'll clean the bathroom tomorrow. Me and my clever stuck here forever. Bigger, not better. Tomorrow, so much more sober. Turn a leaf over, over and over. Tomorrow, all of you folks can go. All of you folks can go. All of you folks can go. Sunshine is coming, down goes the dawn. Christmas is coming tomorrow. Be who you need to, do what you have to, take what you want to. Tomorrow, tell me the ending, spare the pretending. Time's all I'm spending. Tomorrow, you folks can go. All of you folks can go. All of you folks can lazy resisting, endlessly listing boxes of people cut to the sequel, and all of you folks can go fuck the fuck off. Tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the guy upstairs. Well, upstairs from me, because he literally is upstairs from me. Author, moth winner, podcaster, documentary filmmaker, feeder of cats, Iditarod scholar, Alex Stein.
Thank you, Amy. I remember sobbing, body racked with tears, barely able to breathe. I don't remember what happened or what led to the sobbing. I was 3, maybe 4, so it couldn't have been anything that important in the cosmic scheme of things. Still, when you're 3 or 4, little things quickly expand and fill the whole world and your whole body until you are racked with emotional pain that you're sure will never, ever go away. And then my mother gave me one of these things that we used to call rainbow cookies, even though they're technically not cookies, but chocolate covered petit fours with different colored, soft, cakey layers. And I stopped crying, a seeming miracle. Sugar and flour and eggs and food coloring and chocolate mixed together somehow magically transformed into something miraculous. All through my childhood, I loved these cookies. I was positive they were the best cookies in the world, probably the best cookies in history. They came from this one bakery in the next town over from where we lived. We'd go there sometimes on weekend mornings. Me and my 2 brothers piled in the long back bench seat of the station wagon. Going into the bakery felt like you were entering some astonishing castle where the cookies were all lined up in neat rows in the display case. And bakers would scoop them up and put them into bakery boxes they'd assemble right then and there behind the counter and tie them with string that came from dispensers hanging down off the ceiling. I remember this bakery so clearly, with its huge space for people to line up and the red and white striped door to the bathroom in the corner. The bakery was in this little shopping center where there was an Italian restaurant that had shelves with bottles of Chianti that all had wax from candles dripped down the side. And as a little kid, I remember I didn't think there could possibly be anything more classy and grown up than those bottles of Chianti. But when I was 11, we moved hundreds of miles away before I learned how to drive because I was 11. So I never knew exactly where the bakery was or how to get there. On weekend mornings when I was a kid, my parents would say, "We're going to the bakery." And there was really only one bakery in my life back then. So we'd jump in the car and they'd drive us there and we'd get black and white cookies, sometimes sugar cookies, and of course, rainbow cookies, and drive home. Was there other stuff at the bakery? Bagels? Bread? I don't know. Maybe. Does it matter if there were cookies? Last month, I found myself heading back to the town where I lived as a little kid. I would be there for exactly an hour. And I was determined that I was going to find that bakery. So I asked various family members about it, and they couldn't agree on what the bakery was called, where it was located, and even whether or not it still existed. And sure, maybe it's a sign of how shitty life has been since the 2016 election, but I really wanted one of those cookies. I'd like you to believe that I planned to bring some back for Amy, but I'm pretty sure I would have eaten them all. Or maybe I would have gotten a second box to split with her because, listen, I am not the only one in our household who spends 2 or 3 nights a week sobbing about the hopeless state of our nation. I didn't just want these cookies. I needed them. These wonderful miracle cookies that make everything okay. But when I got there, I couldn't find anything. Who knew that if you leave a place for a few decades, so many things change? I couldn't find the pizza place where they sold slices for 45 cents and where my friend Tommy was banned for life after he poured red pepper flakes and garlic powder into a can of Sprite. The diner where I had my first vanilla milkshake from an old-fashioned 1950s style soda fountain closed in the late 1980s. And the library where I had a junior library card in bright blue that let me enter the children's library, which was in an attached but different building, had all been torn down to make a parking garage. I wonder what happened to that book of Superman cartoons they had in the library when I was a kid. A book I took out once only to see that someone had drawn a big swastika on one of the pages, which let me know at age 7 that there are some problems that even Superman can't solve. The one place I could find was my old house, but it had been remodeled sometime in the past 40 years, so the front door was now on what had been the side of the house, which is very confusing. Still, I drove from there to the next town over, where the bakery had been, and I got lost almost immediately. I guess I was too busy fighting with my brothers in the back seat of the station wagon to pay attention to what route my parents took to get to the bakery. I was running out of time, and the world was not getting any better, so I needed those cookies. I Googled all the bakeries in town, looked up Yelp reviews, and narrowed it down to 3 possibilities. The first one was in a shopping plaza that was laid out wrong. There was no restaurant nearby, and there was a big drugstore I don't remember, and a small department store that definitely wasn't there in the 1970s. The second bakery had no cookies at all, so that clearly was out. And the third almost looked right. The space was a lot smaller than I remembered, but I'd been a kid and maybe it just seemed big. There was no red and white door to the restroom, but at least there was a restroom, and I guess I'm glad that they painted it at least once since Reagan was elected. The cookies there, however, seemed like an afterthought, pushed over in a corner to make room for elaborate wedding cakes, artisanal breads, and more varieties of croissants than should exist in all of Christendom. And there were no string dispensers hanging from the ceiling, so I was tempted to say it couldn't possibly be the right place. Luckily, the owner was there and it wasn't that crowded, so I asked him how long the bakery had been there. He had bought it a couple years earlier and said it had been there for a while, but he wasn't sure if that meant maybe 10 years or 60. Holding out hope for the miracle cure I'd needed so badly for the past 4 years, I bought a few cookies. They weren't bad. They were good, but definitely not the best cookies in the world. And they were packed in a bag. Who does that? I got out to the rental car and I slammed my fist against the steering wheel in frustration. Theoretically, at least, I'm an adult. Theoretically, I could get cookies any damn time I want and eat them any damn time of day. Theoretically. But that's not enough. Why couldn't I find those magic, best in the world, conquer any foe cookies? Why isn't there a beacon pulsing out from the bakery like a baker's bat signal, making it possible for hungry pilgrims to find their way to the best cookies in the world? I mean, really, is that so much to ask? Because the next time something painfully stupid happens politically, or something hurts so badly that it seems to cover the entire country in pain, and I feel like sobbing with every ounce of energy in my body, why can't I have those cookies? And don't even start with that, you're an adult, you should have adopted other coping mechanisms by now bullshit, because I don't want to hear it. And sure, some people might wonder if these cookies from my childhood were ever really that great, and some might speculate that no baked goods in existence have the power to work miracles. And to those of you who think that, I can only say, fuck off. And there, in the car, with time running out and a half-eaten bag of not bad, but definitely not best in the world cookies on the passenger seat without a box or string, I think about literally blowing off every single aspect of my life so I can drive around endlessly in this stupid village for as long as it takes to figure out where that bakery was and decide if it even still exists anymore. I have no time left, but I still need these cookies. Because surely these fucking cookies will be enough to restore trust and honor to the White House, make greed and dishonesty disappear forever, and finally, once and for all, vanquish COVID-19, right? And then my phone buzzes with texts and emails and dozens of reminders of things I need to do, places I need to go, because I'm not 3 or 4 years old anymore, theoretically. I have responsibilities. So I put the car in gear and I drive off, away from those cookies I'll probably never taste again. The ones I remember more clearly than anything. Thank you. Before I introduce the next writer-performer, I just want to mention and pop up here on the screen for a second. We have a virtual tip jar, and the tips that come in from the virtual tip jar will be distributed among the performers. So here's the deal. If you're not working, if you've given to a bunch of things earlier this week, if you just don't feel like it, that's fine. Please just relax, enjoy this. If you are working, if you haven't given anything recently, if you have money burning a hole in your pocket, if you're thinking, if I'd gone out to see this show, I would have probably spent $10 on admission. You could throw that in the virtual tip jar. If you're thinking, if I wasn't at home watching this, I could be out at a bar having an appletini, perhaps to go, you might want to put $15 in the virtual tip jar. Whatever you want, we appreciate it very much. And now our next performer joins us from Ventura, California, which is up the coast. She is a winner of the Moth Story Slam and performs regularly in many LA storytelling shows, although lately she's been prowling the virtual scene wherever it takes her. She also writes books and essays, including the wonderful memoir, They Only Eat Their Husbands, and you can find her latest piece, Never Kill a Dog or Cat in Your Novel, in the online comedy journal Slackjaw. Please welcome Cara Lopez Lee. Boom, there she is. Cara, I'm just going to interrupt for a sec because I think you're muted.
Well, then you didn't interrupt anything, did you, Alex?
There you go. Now you're unmuted. Cara
Okay.
Lopez Lee.
Yay! Now here I really am. Okay, so wow, all that animation over nothing. All right, so here I go. I was a lonely, only child. And so I grew up kind of feral, and I ran away from home a lot. And I would pack my little blue suitcase with a single change of clothes, a toothbrush, and my little stuffed lion, Leo. The suitcase was so small, I could either fit Leo or the bologna sandwich. So I ditched the sandwich, and I would bring Leo because he was my first memory, my first friend. And I loved him so hard that I had rubbed his mane to stubble. Leo made me feel like his presence protected me. So lions kind of became my thing. And like, for example, when other girls had a crush on Speed Racer, the cartoon race car driver, I had a crush on Kimba, an albino cartoon lion cub. Who's the king of animals in Africa? Kimba the white lion is his name. Oh yeah. And I knew a lot more because Africa was really big on TV back then, and I loved all of it, like Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, Tarzan, and my favorite, Doctari, which was a fictional series about this wild animal veterinarian, Dr. Marsh Tracy, who AKA Doctari, who I would fantasize that I joined his research team to have adventures in East Africa. And mostly I just wanted to have what his daughter had, which was a pet, Clarence the cross-eyed lion, who she had tamed. So fantasies just weren't enough for me after a while. And when I was 10 in 1973, I begged my family to take me to the newest Los Angeles amusement park, Magic Mountain. Stick with me. So sure, I love roller coasters, whatever. But my big goal was to get my portrait taken with Major, a retired Hollywood star and a real live African lion. So Major, the year before, had starred in this movie with the child star Jodie Foster. And it was called Napoleon and Samantha. And it was about these two little kids who run away from home with their pet lion. They were living my dream. So by the time I meet Major, he is the most popular animal at the Magic Mountain Petting Zoo, like only in the 70s. So for my portrait with Major, we sit in this little manger, and the handler lets me lean against Major's body, and I can feel the heat coming off of him and his sides like heaving in and out with each breath. And I actually pet his mane, which is not soft like I expected, but coarse and thick. And I think, this is what real feels like. And I just want to take this big, beautiful cat home with me until Major does something a little too real. He roars this thunderous bellow that just rattles my chest, and I freeze in fear. My grandmother, the only member of my family brave enough to like come on this little photo shoot, is standing behind this flimsy barrier, and she's ready to leap over it to my rescue. But the handler says, no, Major roars like that to let us know he feels protective of her. Oh. So Grandma and I fall for this, and Major relaxes, and I get the photo of a lifetime, which my family will sadly go on to lose. But look, I promise you, at that moment, I look more thrilled than I ever have on any amusement park ride. So in years to come, I will come to hate the idea of lions in captivity, but I will become obsessed with the goal of seeing them in the wild. So in 2001, at 37, I go on a safari in Tanzania with my friend Karen. And one day on our safari, we drop our cook off at this empty campground to set up. And our driver takes the rest of us to go see what I have been waiting for, the big cats of the Serengeti Plain. We spot a leopard like lounging in a tree and a cheetah running full on, and lots of lions, including a male lion mounting a lioness for a little quickie. I mean, it's so quick, I was a little embarrassed for them. But it's all more than I ever dreamed. And then we go back to the camp, where the cook comes running up to us, wide-eyed, chattering in rapid-fire Swahili, blah, 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 Simba, blah, 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 Simba. So for those of you who didn't see The Lion King, Simba means lion, and it seems that two lions just walked through the middle of camp, forcing the cook to leap up into the rafters of this picnic shelter and hang on there. Well, as he puts it, the lions looked up at me like this. So we pack up our stuff and move to another campground with a lot more campers, like maybe 24 more people, plus a park ranger armed with a rifle. And this is the place where I begin to suspect that I might be a coward, because all the campers are pitching their tents in this sort of cluster. But I tell Karen, we have to pitch our tent in the center, because you see, there's no fence around this campground. And so I want as many bodies as possible between us and like the open savanna of lion country, because if a lion eats tonight, well, I just rather it eat someone else. So just after that, just before bed, it's getting dark, and I go to the outhouse. And on my way there, an African wildcat just walks right across my path. I can see its eyes in the light from my headlamp shining in the dark, and I see its tail just sort of wave goodbye as it goes off into the bush. And it's they look sort of like a domestic tabby cat. I mean, just an ordinary cat, and pretty small. But I think if this little guy is so bold, what will the lions do? So I hurry back to my tent, and I'm sleepless until I hear this. And I'm so unnerved. I don't care who I wake up. I just say, "Is that the lions?" And Karen says, "Yes, Kara, that's the lions. Look, I know it's the lions, but I don't want it to be." So I say, "No, no, I've heard a lion roar before. Didn't sound like that. Up close, I heard a lion roar before." And Karen says, "Well, she was at a zoo once where an expert gave a talk and said that that's the sound they make right before they feed." Again, not what I want to hear. So I asked the Canadians in the next tent, guys, is that the lions?" "Yes, Kara, that's the lions." This is all on top of the fact that earlier the driver told us that all of the local watering holes are low on water right now. So there is a shortage of prey in the area. So it seems to me none of these campers is sufficiently panicked that we are basically surrounded by hungry lions, and they keep getting louder. This is what real sounds like, and it's way too real for me. So I say, "That's it, I'm sleeping in the van." And I slowly unzip the tent and poke my flashlight out and look around, and seeing no lions, I get out and I stomp toward the van. Scariest 15 seconds ever. And then there's nothing following me though, except Karen, who gets in the van with me. She still says I'm overreacting, but she says, "You've had worse ideas, Kara." So I never thought I'd be so thrilled to have like 2,000 pounds of automotive metal and glass between the outdoors and me. And I spend the night listening for human screams because I have an unhealthy need to be right about everything. But come morning, I know I'm a coward because nobody got mauled, and we're the only two people who spent the night in the van in any vehicle. And in the coming days, I survey some other travelers about my little decision, and a lot of them say, "Yeah, that was stupid. There's no recorded instance of a lion ever attacking a tent. You were more in danger when you stepped out of the tent. That's when they attack." But there was one guy who said, "No, no, I heard of an incident where a guy recently got mauled inside his tent." But I looked that one up, and he left his tent unzipped. So I was wrong, and Karen was right when she warned me not to go back to the tent to pick up my sleeping bag, and then again later because I forgot my pillow. I was uncomfortable. So it turns out I made myself the biggest target in the whole camp, running back and forth, effectively saying, "Hey, lions, look what's on the menu." Which brings me back to Major. So recently I looked up that old movie starring Jodie Foster when she was 8, and I found an interview that she gave as an adult where she talks about something that happened on set with Major one day. She says he picked her up in his jaws unexpectedly and just shook her. And she said she thought it was an earthquake. She didn't know what was happening, and she saw people running, and she heard the handler yell, "Drop it," and Major dropped her. And even though she was terrified, she said she knew Major was probably just playing with her because if he'd wanted to kill her, he could have. As it was, she landed in the hospital. So looking back at my little encounter with Major, I now think that his so-called protective roar translates more like this: "I'm a wild animal," which means I can do anything I want at any time and without feeling the need to explain myself to you. So if you want to experience that, you've got to respect the risks. So allow me to now express my humble gratitude to Major and to all the lions who did not eat me, despite all the chances I gave them. Thanks.
Kara Lopez Lee, I love that story. Thank you so much. I wanted to just say hi right now to the cat who is threatening to destroy my laptop. I want to say hi to the people watching on the live stream. like Brian, Marina, Rex, Steve, and Albert, and anybody else whose name that I left out. I apologize for leaving you out. Our next performer is an author, producer, and storyteller originally from Houston, Texas. His autobiographical stories highlight his journey into and through fatherhood, reflections on marriage, and his colorful childhood. He has produced a long-running, fantastic storytelling show called Off My Head, a lasting storytelling experience, which features local storytellers sharing personal stories that are sometimes funny, sometimes poignant, but always authentic and relatable. Sadly, that show is on hiatus because of, the COVID and all of that, but we are hopeful that it will come back very strong in the after times. You can and you should subscribe to his YouTube channel to see more of his stories and sign up for his mailing list, which I will pop up on the screen in a moment for more information on all the cool stuff he's doing. Please welcome Ty Fance. And now I have to put him up on the screen. Sorry, Ty. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Half and half. All right, that's great. I see it. Hopefully, you guys can hear it. Yeah, he mentioned I'm from Houston, and yeah, that was a long time ago. Matter of fact, as a kid, the area that I lived in wasn't the toughest as it could have been, but it was pretty crazy. And and I would consider myself, and I tell people this a lot, I was never going to be the alpha because that required too much fisticuffs on a regular basis. And because my approach to physical confrontation was I like to talk it out, maybe make some jokes about it, or if I had the opportunity, run. So I was not really going to be an alpha. So picture this, 15 years old, I'm really thin, not starving thin, but slightly built, had an 18-inch afro, big eyes. And I'm sitting in the kitchen doing my homework when my mother, who was streetwise, kind of a no-nonsense kind of mother. Tough love wouldn't really describe her. She believed that you should earn what you want. She gives you what you need and doesn't have any problem telling you when you're out of line. Well, she comes into the kitchen with her hair up in those pink rollers back in the day, cat-eye glasses, and smoking a cigarette, and she says, "Boy, we need to move. It's crazy around here, and there are no good jobs. We need to move." About 3 weeks later, we packed up and we moved to the safe and prosperous city of Watts, California, where I was picked on and teased, damn near beat up on a regular basis by the local bully, Gary. Well, this didn't sit too well with my mom. Like I said, she's kind of street smart. And she said to me, "Boy, you need to learn how to fight. Come here, I'm gonna teach you something. Go ahead, try to grab my shirt." Grab my shirt. I hesitated, but when I reached out, before I could actually grab her shirt, she had grabbed my wrist, twisted it, pinned me down to the ground, and had me in an arm bar. Took the smoke off her cigarette and said to me, "Try to move." I couldn't. Not only that, it was hurting so bad, man. I had said uncle 3 times before she actually let me up. Well, not deterred, but I said, maybe this is not for me. And I started to walk away. She said, "Boy, you need to learn how to deal with somebody who got a knife. Come on back here." I said, "No, thanks, Mom. I'm good. Well, I was after that had happened, I was really trying to figure out what to do because I couldn't fight out in the streets. I couldn't fight at home. I was feeling pretty bad about it, but fortunately, across the street from me, there was this recreational center that opened a summer boxing program. And for me, I figured I'd better try this out, so I signed up. And so did Gary. Fortunately, though, boxing, man, I was good at it. It came natural, and it felt good because I had this really good jab, and I had a good right cross and a left hook, and it was just it's almost like I was born to do it. And one of my best punches, though, was this uppercut. And what I would do, I'd set it up with a nice left, and then I would lean and dip to my right, and then boom, it's beautiful. I remember feeling really confident, like I'd found something for me. I felt like that alpha for a change, and it was intoxicating. I was feeling really good. I love boxing. Gary, on the other hand, hated boxing. He said it had too many rules. Well, that didn't bother me none because I proceeded to beat the pants off him as much as I could. And then after class, I would run home because he didn't believe in fighting fair in the streets. So, and I remember I finally thought, this is for me. I'm going to do this. So I told my mom. I said, Mom, I'm going to go pro. I'm going to go pro. I can do this professionally. And I remember her taking a strong look at me and said, Boy, are you crazy? I said, No, Mom, I'm really good at this. And I showed her my little combinations, He said, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. You need to stay your little butt in school, get yourself a good job. That's what you need to do. I said, Mama, I'm like an alpha. I got this. I can do this. Again, staring at me with concern. I said, Boy, I tell you what, Mr. Alpha, you better take this trash out like I told you, or me and you gonna be boxing. Well, I took the trash out. But that next day, I got to the boxing class and I told my coach, I said, Coach, I think I want to go to the real gym. Yeah, the real, where you box. He was a boxer. He was a professional boxer. Matter of fact, he was really good at it. His name was Andy the Hawk Price. Look him up. He was real good until he fought Sugar Ray Leonard. That was interesting. I remember that fight because I bought it on HBO. And I invited all my friends over, right? I was like, hey, man, come to my house, man. My coach is fighting tonight. He's fighting Sugar Ray Leonard. Y'all sit down for a minute. I'm going to get some popcorn, right? Sit down, man. By the time I turned around, Coach was laying down on the campus. I was like, what happened? He said, oh, you just got knocked out. What? Are you kidding me? Shocked me. But that day, I did tell him, I said, I want to go to the real gym. I'm tired of, a bunch of these guys here. I need some from real competition. I want the real deal. I remember saying that, I want the real deal. And I showed him my little combinations, right? He says, okay, all right. So we go to the real gym, and I don't know if you guys have ever been to a professional gym where those dudes were in there boxing for their life. Like, that's all they got. That's a very distinct look when you get there. For instance, this one was, it's in LA, it was back in the 70s. It's the Hoover Street Boxing Gym over on Hoover and 78. And I should have known I was up for something because when we went to open the door, it took my effort and Coach's effort to open the door. It was that heavy, old, and raggedy. The whole building looked like it needed some paint. But we got the door open finally. And when we did that, the funk that rushed out of that building was enough to knock you on your butt. If it wasn't for the fact it was holding onto that door. I mean, it was so intense. It was a combination between sweat, perspiration, with a sprinkling of hope. And so, but that didn't deter me. We went inside. Now, once we got inside, that whole scene was interesting because all these old posters of the old boxers are on the wall. Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, George Foreman, Frazier, so you get hyped up, you start feeling it, right? You're in there, you start to feel it. Then you see the ring. Now, most TV rings, when you see them on television, they were pristine. Not today. This ring, man, the velvet ropes were basically all ripped apart. The canvas wasn't new. Matter of fact, it had stains and some other matter on it that, you had to pretty much get your tetanus shots up before you went in there. And to the left of that, I remember seeing this big heavy bag. Now, the heavy bag was pretty old. It was made out of canvas, and it had several layers of duct tape wrapped around it. That was white at one point. Now it's a dingy gray black thing going on. And right next to the heavy bag was this young dude in his 20s, no shirt on, but muscles on top of muscles. And he's hitting this bag, man. Boom, boom, boom. Every time he'd hit the bag, sweat would just jump off his brow, right? And dust would explode off the backside of the bag. And the building shook. Again, I guess I had a look on my face because that's when Coach looked at me and said, you all right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. He said, you sure? I said, yeah, I'm good. All right, you can let go of my hand then, bro. So I'm pretty much there. I'm not going nowhere. I'm there. So I get dressed, put on my hand wraps, my boxing shorts. I had on these black satin shorts, had black boxing gloves and black headgear. That was interesting putting my headgear on because I had an 18-inch afro, right? When I went to put the thing on, my hair stuck out through the top and through the ear holes. So it was pretty comical. And then he says, go ahead, pick somebody to fight. I'm like, what? No, I thought we were just gonna hit the bag and you hold the mitts and, I was just gonna get a workout. No. You wanted the real deal. Pick somebody. Well, I gotta tell you something. Every boxer in there was in this ridiculous shape, just great shape. 6-pack abs, pecs that were just solid, arms that looked like pistons, and every one of them looked like they just killed something. So I swallow. I'm like, he says, go on, pick somebody. And I'm still looking around, trying not to make any eye contact. And I ended up finding this guy standing over in the corner, a little kid about my age at the time, skinny though, a lot lighter than me. And he's wearing like lime green shorts and powder blue headgear, and he had these fluorescent pink boxing gloves. And he's doing these techniques, but he's not that good. I mean, he's looking pretty solid. I mean, pathetic. And I'm like, oh, I'll box this guy. But see, unbeknownst to me, this guy was lightweight champion. I didn't know that. So I told coach, yeah, I'll fight that guy. He says, you sure? I said, yeah, I'll fight him. No, don't worry, I'll take it easy on him. Don't worry, So they put us in the ring, and I'm feeling pretty good because I had worked up a sweat. I get in the ring, we start, Lime Green gets in with me, and then the bell rings. And I dance over to him, and I hit it, bam, I hit him again, bam. It seemed pretty easy, so I just throw in combinations, boom, boom, boom. And I'm thinking, you know what? Let's just call it what it is. I'm about to take this guy out. So I dip to my right, and I get to throw that uppercut. I get about halfway into that punch before Lime Green just opens up on me. All kind of punches come from all different angles, man. It was really amazing. I just couldn't even, I could do nothing, basically. It was like fighting a Tasmanian devil, right? Being in one of those cartoon clouds of fighting. Things started sticking out, an arm, a leg, an elbow. It was ridiculous. Every time I tried to get away from him, he would reach out with one of those pink gloves and pull me back in. And so beating. I forgot all about my technique. I just started throwing punches in all kind of directions, just trying to hit this guy. Never laid a glove on him after that. And then what happened, when he got real busy, everything just slowed down. And I'm looking at him, and he throws a left punch. Now I see this punch, so I lean, and he goes right past me. But what I didn't see, he had dipped to his right. And boom! I didn't know what happened after that. But when I woke up, I couldn't see out of my left eye, which panicked me for a second until I realized my headgear had turned and I was looking out through one of the ear holes. I remember trying to get to my feet, and then I straightened the headgear out, and I was wobbling around a little bit, and I heard Coach, he says, Ty, I'm looking. He says, hey, over here. I'm like, oh. He's like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Do you want some more? I said, not today. Y'all can have this. I'm going to college. Thank you.
Ty Fance, everybody. Thank you, Ty.
Learn
And our next writer-performer can be seen frequently all around Los Angeles at shows like the Muse Literary Salon, Backstory, the Otter Story Hour, The Moth, and basically any storytelling show worth its salt. The Los Angeles Times calls her a natural-born storyteller, and her off-center sense of humor and ability to connect with deep emotional truths make her a favorite in the LA storytelling community. She is a writer, actress, mom, and activist. And if you haven't already heard her story, Swing Dancing, on the Moth Radio Hour, you should remedy that after tonight's show. Please welcome Vicki Uditz.
My kid calls me up on the phone and she says, "Mom, you should get tested. Remember that time you were on that camping trip and there was that little boy in the tent next to ours? And remember how that little boy woke up in the middle of the night, heard you snoring, thought you were a bear?" Yeah, that was hilarious. "Mom, you should get tested. You could have sleep apnea and die." Okay. All right, so I call up and I schedule the test. And as it's coming closer, I kind of look forward to it. I mean, during this pandemic, I haven't gone anywhere. This would be kind of like a little vacay, a quiet room and a good book and no MSNBC blasting out the reports of the president's latest crimes. Great. So on a big night, that's at night, 9 p.m. at night, 15 minutes before my appointment, there I am. I'm driving on a side street off Ventura in Tarzana. I'm looking for the address. And for some reason, I am picturing like a perky, brightly lit storefront with the words "The Sleep Center," in big neon letters. I think I have it kind of confused with a Perfect Sleeper mattress commercial or something. The address is a tall, dark office building, and it looks abandoned. So I drive down the alley around the building. I go on into the parking garage. There's one car. I park next to it. I take the elevator up to the third floor. There is a long, empty, silent hallway. And the doors don't have any signs, for any sort of businesses. I'm thinking, am I in the right place? So I get to the end of the hall, number 342, and yes, it says "The Sleep Center" in the teeny tiny little letters. The handle of the door turns easily. I push the door open, and there's one guy, sitting in a swivel chair, his back to me. He is facing a console of video screens. And I think of the horror movie Cabin in the Woods, where the techs watch their victims on the screens and then they send the zombies in to kill them. Being ridiculous. I mean, this place is legit. It's covered by my insurance. This man spins around and he springs to his feet. He is short. He only comes up to like here on me, and he's got iron gray hair, and he's built like a wrestler, and he's wearing jeans and a sweatshirt. And of course, he's got on a mask, as do I, because the virus. And he says, "Hi, I'm Paul. Paperwork?" I reach into my tote bag. I get out the forms. I hand them to Paul, and he says, "Well, let's get started." I say, "You get right to it. I used to be in the military." I follow Paul down a wide hallway, and I see that Paul and I are the only two people in the sleep center. There aren't any other patients. There aren't any other techs. I mean, there are open doors there, right, along the hallway. And in each of those rooms there, they look identical. There's a huge bed and a flat screen TV, no patients. And on each of those TVs is playing the same episode of Gomer Pyle. And I say, "Hey, I remember that show. Yes, we set all the television to the channel that airs Gomer Pyle, Green Acres, and Gilligan's Island." "Why?" "The patients find these shows soothing." I say, "But all the actors are dead." "No one thinks that. You're in here." And so he shows me to my room. It's exactly like the others, right? This enormous bed, very hard looking with a thin white cover, and Gomer Pyle is on the television, and there are no windows. Next to my bed is a cart, with racks of wires and suction cups and gadgets. Paul says, "Have a seat." And so I put my tote bag on the bedside table, and I sit down on the edge of the bed. And Paul puts on like latex gloves, and he asks me to remove my mask. And he puts all this white goop on my face and on my head, and he attaches the electrodes, and then he puts a big strap around my chest and wires on my ankles and a clip on my finger. And the whole time he's rattling off all these medical terms, about breathing and heart rate and brain waves. And I say, why did you get into this line of work, Paul? And he says, the money. I say, you don't mind working nights? Not at all. I don't like people. Okay, so if you gasp for air 9 times, I come in with the CPAP machine. If you need to use the restroom, press the white button on the bedside table. I will come in and disconnect the wires. Do you want to watch TV or read? Read. So Paul turns on a little light on the bedside table. He switches off the television. He stands at the door and he says, 30 minutes till lights out. And then he turns off the overhead light. So I lie back and I'm propped up on the pillows. I'm so uncomfortable. The clip on my finger glows red. And I can see a tiny little green light flashing up near the ceiling. I know that's the camera. I know Paul is watching. And it occurs to me, nobody knows I'm here. And Paul and I are probably the only 2 people in this entire building. All right, I'm going to read my book. I brought along an old favorite, something I thought was appropriate, Raymond Chandler's The Big Sleep. But as I begin, I realize my mistake. This is a disturbing novel to be reading alone when you are wired up in a sleep lab. For example, quote, the plant stalks resembled the newly washed fingers of dead men. And then on page 40, shots rang out, a messy slump. The porn photographer wore an embroidered Chinese coat, the front of which was mostly blood. Okay, I put the book away. I check my phone. It's 10 o'clock. I never go to bed this early. I turn off the light. I try to lie still. I think I have to use the bathroom. Well, I don't want to press that white button for Paul and have him disconnect everything. I fidget, my skin crawls, my feet tingle. I check the time about every 15 minutes. I kick off the covers. I feel exposed. Thank goodness I am wearing leggings and a long-sleeved, oversized t-shirt. I think I can feel every suction cup on my head. Are they pulsing? What sort of information is Paul collecting as he reads my brainwaves? What sort of person takes a job like this anyway? A control freak? A voyeur? Or worse? What did Paul mean when he said he doesn't like people? He was in the military. What did he do? Kill people? Why does he really set each television to Gomer Pyle? Is he sitting there at the console watching me jerking off as Jim Neighbors laughs in the background? Are there dials on these electrodes? Can Paul crank up the current coursing through my body? Even a tiny jolt of electricity can be fatal. Paul could throw my body in the building incinerator. He could have my car driven off a cliff to throw the cops off the track. I'm going to press that button for Paul. I will just mumble some lame excuse and get the hell out of here. I'm going to press a button. I'm going to do it. I will. What is stopping me? What? I know what it is. My entire life, I have followed the rules. I have deferred to authority. I've rationalized my overwhelming fear of breaking free. This is true. When I was in 2nd grade, I literally peed my pants because I wouldn't ask the teacher if I could use the restroom 5 minutes before the final bell. When I was in college, I put up with born-again Christians and Ronald Reagan worshipers afraid to transfer. I just figured the next college would be worse. I was dating this guy, and I had my hair cut off, and I dieted to please him, even though I knew he was seeing his ex. 2 a.m. It's 2:15 a.m. Oh, my first job. I was a cashier in a diner. I was also in charge of takeout. There were 2 customers. One was a woman who was waiting for a sandwich, and there was also a man waiting for toast. And the sandwich came, and the woman went next door to her office, and the man was standing there, and the toast didn't come. And finally, my boss, Tina, 4'11" in heels, she came storming out of the kitchen, and she said, "The toast was in that sandwich bag, Vicky. Go get the toast." I did it. I ran after Toast. Can Paul see my tears? Oh my God, I startled awake. I think it was actually asleep for a second. I pressed the button for Paul. And in minutes, Paul is at the door. And he turns on the light and I say, I'm done. And Paul says, well, I got enough to make my assessment. What? What time is it? It's 4:39 a.m. How could it be? All right, I have to ask you some questions. Now, from your perspective, how long did it take you to fall asleep? I don't think I ever did, but I mean, it was weird because then all of a sudden, you just have to answer the question so I can fill out the form. From your perspective, how long did it take you to fall asleep? 4.5 hours. How long were you asleep? 2 hours. Do you sleep like this at home? No. I've never had a night like this in my life. Paul? Do I have sleep apnea? Did I come in with a CPAP? No. Well then, he takes some alcohol and he puts it on my face so he can get the electrodes off, and he unhooks me, and I go in the bathroom and I look in the mirror. My hair is standing straight up. I look insane. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I don't dare take the freeway. I drive surface all the way home. I get to my house. I go in the kitchen. I sit down on a chair and I think, I don't have sleep apnea. And my God, I pressed the escape button for the first time in my life. I put my head down on the table and I sleep for 12 hours.
Vicky Uditz, everybody. I love that story, Vicky. Thank you so much. So we're going to have Amy come back, but before that happens, our final performer this evening, or actually it's, well, the second to last performer because Amy will come back, but since this is the penultimate show, that makes him the headliner. In any event, our next performer is an award-winning author, playwright, filmmaker, and humorist. For the past several years, through his company, Active Voice Productions, he has developed powerful systems designed to help writers get out of their own way so they can create. His latest book, Relatively Painless, can be found at dylanbrody.com and at amazon.com. And his web series, The Corona Dialogues, a Dylan Brody Project, stars Kate Orsini and can be found at corona-dialogues.com. Please welcome a man who has taught me many things, including that the most important rule of introductions is to make sure that the name of the performer is the last thing that you say, so you build excitement when they take the stage. Dylan Brody.
Thank you very much, Alex, for that fantastic introduction. And just once in my life, I would like to be able to do a show where I am both the headliner and the final performer. If we learn nothing from this extended period of plague, we have learned that none of us has put nearly enough time and consideration into how we appear in medium close-up with office lighting. I would like to present this evening the final for this season performance of A Child's Christmas in Brief, the story David Sedaris once described as the best ever. We are the only Jews in Schuylerville, New York. Everybody in Schuylerville, New York knows that we are the only Jews, so there is understandable confusion surrounding the great, well-decorated Christmas tree in our uncurtained first-floor living room. We are not very good Jews. My mother, after a childhood of envy toward her Goyishe friends with their beautiful trees and their brightly colored presents, has decided she is a grown-ass woman and can celebrate the holidays however she damn well chooses. So each year, We pick out a tree. We set it up in the living room. We decorate it as a family. My sister and I are in charge of tinsel, and every year she screams at me, "Strands, not clumps! Strands, not clumps!" Packages wait wrapped in colored paper for the morning of the 25th, which we refer to as the morning of the 25th. My father is an atheist, but he believes in history and tradition. So every year for 8 nights, we turn our backs on my mother's secular celebration tree and we light the menorah. He doesn't actually know the Hebrew, lapsed Jew that he is. So every year he makes it up as he goes along. He lights the candles from the master candle as he solemnly intones Alakadabra, Abracazam. We light the candles. We don't eat ham. By the 8th night it becomes absurd. We will not eat it in a boat. We will not eat it with a goat. We will not eat the Gentiles' ham. We will not eat it. L'chaim. This year, he has found a pamphlet at the supermarket that has the Hebrew on one page and on the opposite page, the phonetic spelling in the English alphabet. So we're able to read words that have no meaning to us. Baruch atah, and I have a clue what I am saying right now. We press him for an explanation of the holiday. And first, he goes the traditional route of the self-loathing anti-Semite, saying offhandedly, "Yeah, we still celebrate because 5,000 years ago, some of our ancestors got a good deal on some lamp oil." And then he winces and shrugs as if he's forgiving himself for some slight committed long ago against a college roommate whose last name is forgotten. He tries to explain Hanukkah to us, but he doesn't understand it himself. His explanation is confusing. There are Maccabees who are inexplicably not Scottish. It's all about how much oil there was, how long it could last. There were refugees hiding from a war in a cave in need, and outside the dark night fell, and inside the white light burned. And my sister is 13 with a keenly honed sense of hypocrisy. She's figured out that the Judeo-Christian traditions are steeped in patriarchy, so any traditional behavior from that pool of knowledge indicates that we are not nearly as committed to women's rights as we would have everyone believe. And she's figured out that religion has been the cause of wars over the centuries, and any nod to any religious tradition is an indication that we are not as committed to world peace as we would have everyone believe. And she's figured out that Christmas and Hanukkah have become a consumerist, corporate sort of a holiday tradition. So any gift giving or exchange is an indication that we are not as committed to global human rights as we would have everyone believe. And I am 11. I like presents. I like days off from school. Spending so much time reading comic books in my pajamas that the elasticized ankles leave rib mark impressions in my pale winter flesh. My dog, Dusty, Dustin Hofdog, the great matted sheepdog of my youth, believes only that we are the best, most wonderful family in the world, and that any food left outside the refrigerator is there for him. He is having a very happy, very gassy holiday. The true miracle of the season lies in the fact that our home does not explode. Every year, as far back as I can remember, my father has brought out his vinyl record of Dylan Thomas, my namesake, reading his long poem, A Child's Christmas in Wales. And every year I have listened as long as I can as the drunk Welshman intones his tales of snowballs thrown and melted long ago, and I get bored and wander away. This year he has not yet brought out the album. This year is an odd year. There's an oil crisis, words as alien to me as if they were in Hebrew on the news every day. OPEC, embargo. My father, to save on our heating bills, has purchased at a local auction an antique pot-bellied stove, hired a handyman to run stovepipe from the top of it up to a hole in the chimney. And my father insists that this is going to save a great deal of money, and he is correct. Because when the stove is lit, it warms an area around itself 8 feet in diameter, an area that encompasses the house's thermostat. When the stove is lit, the furnace shuts down. I creep down from my bedroom, my parents still up reading in the living room. And I go to the shelf where the records are kept. Perhaps I have inherited his love of history and tradition. Perhaps I am seeking parental approval. Whatever the reason, I pull out the Dylan Thomas record. I slide the vinyl from the cardboard sleeve. I set it on the turntable. I carefully drop the needle into the outermost groove. And I lie on my back with my head resting against my coffee-stained dog. And Dusty cranes around to snuffle my face, stolen latkes on his breath. And the dead drunk Welshman weaves his tale of salt-stained cobblestone streets, of childhood memory drawn from the snow in frozen handfuls for examination. And he mentions candied cigarettes given to him for the holiday that melt chocolate on his tongue. And I think he's gotten it wrong, because I've had candied cigarettes and they were always made of a stiff bubble gum. And I am 11 and certain that I know everything. But I don't. As I feel my dog's breath lifting and releasing my head, as I lie listening, knees pointed toward the ceiling, small feet chilling flat on upstate New York hardwood, I do not know that I am learning to love language. I am learning to listen. I am learning to write. I am learning the cadence of poetry and the magic of the written word, the spoken syllable. I do not know that I am freezing my own memories into snow globes against future use. And outside, the white snow falls, and inside the black disc turns, and here, in this cold and godless house, these are holy days. Thank you.
Dylan Brody, everybody.
Oh, beautiful cat.
This is Bettles P. Kotzebue, and right before I popped her up on screen, she turned around, so you can't see her face. which is just beautiful. And you might be wondering, am I above using the cat for my own purposes? And the answer would be no, I am not. Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to say one more time that the virtual tip jar is live. So if you want to put some money in the virtual tip jar, it is not required, but would be most appreciated by all of the performers who are going to have it distributed to them. And now, one more time, let's bring back the wonderful Amy Engelhart.
Hello, and hello, Bettles. This is a sing-along, so I hope that you've warmed up. I know you have from laughing. So it's pretty easy, and you'll get what your part is. It'll be the chorus, and I'll say, okay, now you, and then you'll sing it. So this is really an end-of-year song. It was written for that purpose. So I would like to share it with you because I think that you're possibly going through what I'm going through. And now that we have the added thing of staying in and eating, we all have this. And it's like, you always say, oh, I'm going to go to these holidays, parties, and eat everything I want, but then come the first of the year, that's it. I'm turning a whole new leaf over. And well, I'm hoping that you will commit to this tonight with me, and we'll have one last blowout. You may know I'm baking gingerbreads and the like. I even make the bread tonight. But that's it. We're going to do it together because there's strength in numbers. And after you sing this, you will be recommitted to this idea. So I'll know if you don't sing, by the way. Nom 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 nom, crisp apple strudels. Nom 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 nom, schnitzel with noodles. I love you, but I'm letting you go. Don't tempt me. You know I can't say no. You were at your best. I am at my worst. So I must insist that we end this sick tryst, but there's one thing I've got to do first. It's my last carb hurrah. Yes, my last carb hurrah. One last roll, then I quit. No, this is it. Then I'm joining a gym with the spa. It's my last carb hurrah. Challah and pizza and warm snickerdoodles. Just look at me. And again, don't. There are substitutes I could substitute, but I won't. I gave up pants. They're much too tight. You go straight to my head like that dark Russian bread. I am giving up after tonight. It's my last carb hurrah. Yes, my last carb huzzah. Oh, there will be tears. There will be beers, and I'll most likely unhook my bra. It's the last carb hurrah. I'm not a springy young chicken. I need to exercise more or at all. The older you get, it gets harder to eat like you did for, say, decades before. I'm a liberal, good-hearted person. I have great legs and fabulous hair. Yada yada, I'm beautiful inside and out, but I'm too goddamn hungry to I can eat. Then I'll retreat. I'll be bidding those tacos ta-ta. It's my last carburetor. One more time. It's my last carb. I can't hear you. Last carburetor. Bring those chicks over here. As of next year, I'll do kickboxing and hot yoga. It's my last carburetor. Trader Joe's peppermint bark and martinis. Angel food, devil's food, cheesecake, linguine. Happy New Year, y'all.
Amy Engelhart, ladies and gentlemen, that is the first penultimate show. I want to just bring all of the performers back on for a second. Here is Tara Lopez Lee, Ty Fant,
Hello.
Vicky Udit, Dylan Brody,
There you go.
Amy Engelhart, and I'm Alex Stein. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
That was great.
We'll see you soon. Stay well, be safe, wear your masks, stay healthy.
Stein!
Brody! Love you guys, man. That was fantastic.
Because that's the name of the show.